Welcome everyone to this special edition of the Progressive Mind Show. My name is Sena, aka Alinco. I will be your host this evening, as always. Talk about this. So this evening we are very excited. We will take a short break. When we come back, the conversation regarding the diaspora will continue. Please stay tuned and make sure you're sharing the feed as we take this short break. Welcome back again. This is going to be very exciting. My guests are ready. I think we're waiting for, I think the only person that's not here right now is Dr. Melida. I'm sure she's caught up in traffic, even though there's no traffic when it comes to virtual, right? There's no virtual traffic, but it could be technical virtual traffic, right? That can happen. But anyway, Dr. Melida will be joining us in a little bit. Actually, she's here. Okay, Dr. Melida, I was just talking about you, so we're glad to have you. Okay, great. Now, we would like to go straight into it. This evening is packed, and as I said earlier, we urge you out there to share the feed and join this discussion, because it's something that has been on the heart of a lot of us. We talk about it in our communities and our homes all the time. And so it is appropriate that we bring it up here to engage all of us. So we would like to take the verse of the day before we get into the program this evening. I'd just like to take it from Psalm 21, verse 1. It says, "O Lord, the King rejoices in your strength. How great is his joy in the victories you give." That would be the verse of the day, Psalm 21, verse 1. And I like it because it inspires me. So sometimes I like to share what inspires me. I hope it inspires you. And on that note, let me just take it straight from Faith D. Pittman. She is HBCU grad and a lab analyst. She is a first timer on the Progressive Mind Show. Faith, you are welcome. Actually, she's also a very good singer and an actress. Faith, I didn't want to give all our information, but you're welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm just so glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And next to Faith is Joseph Edwards. Joseph Edwards is also a brother that I met recently. He is an international teaching artist, an award-winning actor, and a playwright, reparations, truth, and reconciliation advocate. He's also a growth mindset coach, great brother in the Washington, D.C. area. Joseph, you're welcome to the Progressive Mind Show.
Thank you, brother. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. And then next to him is Professor Echo Echampong. Professor Echo. No, I am missing the first one. Professor Angelo Echampong, right? Professor Angelo Echo Echampong is also known as DJ Fisho. He is a communication professor and also a cyber security analyst in the Washington, D.C. area, a very popular DJ within the Ghanaian African community. Professor Echo, would you want me to call you DJ Fisho?
Hey, whatever works is fine.
You're welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure. And then next to him is Dr. Melida Harris Barrow. She is a friend. She's a sister. She is everything. We've had a lot of community works together. I honor this lady. She has done a lot of things. Currently, she founded and chairs the Sixth Global Chamber of Commerce. Huge organization. She's also the founder of Love, Peace, and Love, Truth, and Peace.
Yes.
Okay, and then also the owner of the Harris Enterprise. She leads a lot of organizations. She's also the ambassador for Panama Global Trade Investment.
Yes.
Okay, great. I wanted to make sure I got all that right.
Okay.
Mel, you're welcome to the Progressive Mind Show again.
Thank you.
Again and again. She's always here. Next to her is Melissa Dupree. Melissa Dupree is also Dupree. Okay, she's also an actor, comic playwright, a spiritualist and organizer. She holds a lot of titles and has accomplished a lot in our community. A famous actress, and we would be hearing a lot from her during the show. Melissa, you're welcome to the Progressive Minds.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And last but not the least, Faith. No, not Faith. Rebecca. Rebecca is also a Chicago. She is an immigration rights advocate, a research assistant in Chicago, documenter. She holds other titles. I'll let her tell us about that. Rebecca is a great lady in our community. You're welcome again, Rebecca. Well,
thank you.
You're welcome. And then lastly, we have Romain Morrow. Romain Morrow is the host of Drive at 5 at Intellectual Radio. Great, brother. Romain, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So, guys, we'll just take a second to tell our audience anything else that I may have missed that you want our audience to know about you before we rumble and tangle. No, I'm just joking. But before we get to think of things, anything else that you would like the audience to know about you? I'll let the first timers do it because Melinda and Rebecca, you guys, you're my people. Melissa, anything else that I've left out that you want your audience to know about you?
Well, I'm not famous. I'm Humboldt Park famous. I'm a Chicago native. I have a theater degree in performance, and I'm a solo artist. So I've created a lot of my work around intersectional identity, and that has led me to do other theater work, TV, and film. And so I was on the last season of Empire. I'm currently recurring on the show Grey's Anatomy. So I do a lot of TV and film, and I've recently just debuted my 5th solo show off Broadway this past Saturday. So in the midst of doing a lot of artistry and acting, I'm also deeply committed into writing out our intersectional identities in the way that centers Blackness within the diaspora.
That is powerful. That's powerful. Romain. Oh, Faith. Anything else that I left out that you would like the audience to know about you?
After that, I don't know if I can come any harder. I'm kidding. But there's not really much else about me. I'm just a former HBCU grad from Grambling State University all the way in Grambling, Louisiana. So if any Tigers are listening, go Tigers. I currently work at Eli Lilly as a lab analyst in Indianapolis, Indiana. And that's really just all about me. I'm a business owner. I do have a business called Copper Crown Boutique that sells hair. And besides that, I'm getting there. I'm growing.
Excellent. Right. Thank you so much. Romain, again, anything about you that I left out that you would like the audience to know?
Just here in the flesh.
I hear you. I hear you. DJ Fisho.
Well, I think you covered it all the first time. Professor in Communication Studies here in Montgomery College in Maryland. My background, of course, was in intercultural communication, but I did work in the media, as you know, in Ghana for quite a while before relocating. And I still have my passion for radio and TV and entertainment. So I DJ to relax, and I do have a successful virtual show on Facebook and Zoom on Sundays, Music for Your Quarantine Feet, which covers both the entertainment aspect and, of course, charity aspect to it as well. So it's good to be on your show, talking a little bit of diversity.
Thank you so much. And so I didn't leave Indian body out. No, Joseph, anything else that you want the audience to know quickly?
No, not really.
Which means opposite, right? Which he would be unleashing as we go on. Let's begin. Black History Month. Your opinions, brothers. Do you think that as people in the diaspora, Black people, do you think that the way we have been celebrating Black history for the past years is in the right direction? Do you think that maybe we should be coming together to do anything more special than what it has been so far? And I'd like to take your quick opinions on this. And let me start with the ladies the first time. So I'm going to go with Melissa. Do you think, from your observation, do you think that we have been celebrating Black History Month as Afro-diasporans the right way?
Look, you coming right out the gate at the top of the hour and just hitting it with what's in the present right now and in the moment. So I do not actually. And I was just talking about this with a friend of mine where everything that we are talking about in Black History Month is still celebrated through a white lens, especially through history. Now, I'm not a historiographer by any means, but I know that Blackness as a diaspora also needs to be celebrated. There are tremendous contributions to culture, arts, history, science, STEM, athleticism that is not just going through a Black American historical lens. And even so, a lot of the Black history in America has been subject to erasure, and so we're not even at the entire iceberg of the contributions of Black society within the Americas in and of itself. So I don't think that we're doing ourselves justice celebrating the same 6, 7, 10 iconic Black people, and that's the canon that we're giving to our youth. That's the canon that we are continuing to push in the media. So I think that we have a lot of work to do when we're expanding the diaspora and also diving deeper into the history that's been erased due to colonialism and white supremacy.
My brother Fisho, do you want to respond to this quickly?
Well, I mean, I think from a different perspective, as somebody who relocated here not too long ago.
Okay.
Black History Month, we got to learn about what February was about, and the goal was to understand the history. And naturally, when you relocate, you come with your own perspectives or perceptions of the little things that you know. I'm sure we'll touch on it later.
Right.
And through it all, you realize every February, the history is told of the people, of the Black people in this country. How far back does it go? And then you kind of link it up to what you know, Black history over in, let's take me from Ghana. Mm-hmm. You understand a little bit of the slave trade from our perspective. Mm-hmm. And then you learn a little bit about Black History Month, maybe from your children and things that you see on television here. And you realize that although, yes, the idea is there to push Black history, there is still a gap. There's still some knowledge. There's still some information that is either treaded on lightly or not discussed at all. So is the effort being made? Absolutely, yes. There's something being put out there. You can't go out anywhere and say that nobody talks about the history of African Americans in the U.S. No. Okay. Is it enough? Absolutely not. Okay.
More so within the African community, right? And I think I can attest to. You and I can agree to that.
Yeah. There's stuff that we know that is not covered, and there's stuff that is covered that we had no clue about. Mm. So we're learning, but we do understand that there is a gap that is missing.
Great.
And our goal as individuals is to take every advantage that we can to teach that missing gap.
That missing gap. That's a great point. Rebecca, quickly, your opinion on this.
I feel like it's already been said. My answer would be no. And I think what I am hoping this conversation will do, and other conversations and work that I'm partaking in, is to get representatives of various regions within the Black diaspora, and not the same people that show up. And often it's a West African narrative. We say African, but it's often a West African narrative, and or people that show up. And then when we're talking about Black History Month, we tend to say, well, that's just African American history. But even within the civil rights movement, even within Cicely Tyson, who just passed away, rest in peace, she's of Caribbean descent. So we need to really analyze who is part of this Black history that we speak of. And Blackness is a global term, and it's an umbrella term, and not just a term for a specific identity. And so I think when we talk about that, we'd have a much stronger understanding of the Black diaspora and a greater unity.
Joseph, do you agree to what she just said with regards to Black history being recognized as a global sensation as compared to African Americans month in the diaspora? I don't know if you wanted to add comment on that, or maybe just add your voice to what she said and maybe respond to my earlier question.
Well, here's my take on it.
Okay.
We are constantly going through a process of reconstructing everything about Black people or the African diaspora, because the fractionalism, what colonialism did and white supremacy did to us, has splintered us to the point where you have, Black history and various histories based upon those people's experience in terms of the African diaspora. And so what I'm hearing is that we're always trying to put it back together and reconstruct it under the umbrella, of the global citizenry of Black people. And I think that, of course, the main issue around it is that who's educating us in the very beginning about who we are and what history is. So, on that note, it's why so many Black people have fought to have our own schools that teach our children what they need to know to thrive on this planet, and not it be somebody else's narrative of telling us who we are and what our history is and all that kind of. And what's fascinating is that there is so much history that you're discovering things every day. I've been studying Black history since I was a child, and I'm finding out fascinating things every other week about our people, African people, Native American, Caribbean. It's mind blowing. So I think we're still in a process of revolving and figuring out how to connect the puzzle so that it makes comprehensive sense to everyone.
Dr. Malida, quickly, your take.
Well, this is what I believe. First of all, when someone gives you permission to celebrate who you are, that means you're still controlled. You are still oppressed. No one should give you permission to celebrate who you are. You are who you are. And this is one of the problems that we've been having for years. We're always asking permission from our oppressors to give us permission to celebrate who we are. That has to change. I do believe that what everyone said today is correct. Who are we celebrating? What are we celebrating? That's the question. First of all, we need our brothers and sisters in Africa in order to discuss our culture, in order to discuss who we are. Slavery in America, our history started from slavery, according to America. That has to change. And this is why we need our brothers and sisters in Africa to tell us the rest of the story and not start from who we are from slavery.
Wow. Roman, please, your take on that.
Again, thank you for allowing me to come at the last minute, and thank you to the guests. I agree with almost everything that was said thus far. However, there's a however component. We keep on forgetting that history is defined as his story. And we keep on forgetting that we allow his story to come to the masses. We allowed that fact. Now, it goes back to the conversation you and I had on my show, defining the isms in the Black community, and defining the isms is part of our history. Like what side are you on, and how do we define our culturalism? And culturalism defines that we are like individualism, separatism, and we got to start forming a collectivism, including defining who we are. So the isms is part of, we allow his story to be defined in the masses. So if we got to stop that to allow others to tell our history and describing and defining our isms for us. So that's what I think.
Wow. Romain took us right from, ground level to very high altitude already. So
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Sorry.
I know.
Take us there.
Okay.
Black people are not a monolith either. We're not all on the same page, even with history. I love what you just said, Roman. Like, you know, even thinking about how much polarization is in our own Black communities, who's telling the story and from what side of history? You know, I know that a lot of BLM in Chicago is going to be against, you know, other Black radicals. You know, there's just different ways of telling a story, and there's different ways of resistance, and there's different ways of censoring. And so we're not even all, you know, all of our skin folk ain't on the same page.
Right. Okay, great point. I know, Romain, anybody wanted to comment quickly on what Brother Romain said, or anything else that was said earlier that you wanted to comment on? Please take a, let me, I think you should do that right now before I recognize folks who have joined us on the feed.
I would like to speak since I haven't.
Yeah.
Coming from a PWI to a HBCU, I can definitely tell you right now that we are not doing enough for just by having Black History Month, and we're not doing enough within Black History Month to educate the masses. And just like Brother Romain said, like, where is this story coming from? Like, who is telling this story? I believe that a lot of things that we see in the media are honestly replays of Black History Month every year. Like, I feel like at some point it's starting to be the same things over and over again that we're learning. Whereas whenever I went to an HBCU, I was learning about different things I had never heard before. I feel like slavery and racism in America goes a lot deeper and a lot uglier than what has been revealed to the masses. And because a lot of, I'll say, you know, my generation, because we have different diverse backgrounds, and, you know, I lived in an area that was very diverse. It had a lot of different races. So I didn't really learn a lot about Black history and certain things until I went to an HBCU, and I was just like, wait, this is who? This happened to them? What?
Right.
Many things that I didn't even understand that had, you know, could be possible. But I feel like because we're not doing enough during Black History Month in those areas where there are a very great diverse group of people, it's causing some divide where there's people who are, you know, colorists, where they're like light skin this, dark skin this, when in all actuality, this Black skin is beautiful. Okay, you look good regardless. Or where they put each other in a social class when it should never be that way. We should all be collective regardless. So I feel like we're not doing enough. And that's
Thank you so much for the point you just made, Faith, and to all of you. I'll follow up quickly, but let me just recognize our audience. Ted Williams is watching us. Peter Akwabwa, Cass Thompson is here. Rebecca Mode is also here. Live, Love, Laugh. She's here as well. Live, Love, Laugh. Yes, I got it. And Ted says, great point. We should celebrate the diaspora together. We also must recognize that in the U.S., Black history is American history. All Americans must learn these stories. And then Akwaba says, go official. All right. So somebody asked, okay, if she wanted to make a comment. Somebody said if they wanted to call, the number is, I'll give you the number to ring in, but you can pass your comment down here in the comment section and I'll read it out. So we mentioned issues of division. I mean, from what all of you were saying, we have not been celebrating Black History Month, the right way and whatnot. In my opinion, I feel like there are reasons, that are circling within our communities that are preventing us from probably coming together and recognizing Black History Month the way we are supposed to. Again, you also said it very eloquently. And some of these things have been lingering for a very long time. Issue of divisiveness, cultural differences. Your accent is different from mine. You are from this country and I'm from that country. Brother Fisher, you being a Ghanaian and West Africa, and I must say that this show we tried to do a fair representation of the diaspora, the Afro diaspora, African diaspora, Black diaspora. Some people like to call it different things, but it's all the diaspora, right? It's all about Black people here. But we have African Americans represented, folks from Africa. We have East Africa, West Africa. We have South America, and we have some Caribbean. All right, not 100% Caribbean. Half Caribbean, but we will. In your shows, we have.
I've never heard of that one before. We need to start talking about half and a third
and a quarter and a fourth. Thank you.
The world. We was just born in these countries.
Thank you. So that is the exact point that I'm coming to. And it's a lot of times the reasons why we are careful with our words is because people take issue, right? If you don't address them in a very specific way. Why do we see ourselves very differently? And why do you think that we haven't, basically the question is, why have we seen ourselves very different from each other? Even though, like Dr. Melida said, we are all people of the African origin. Brother Joseph, I saw you jump up, so just go ahead.
Yeah, man. I mean, it goes back to the specific experiences that we had in whatever particular region we were in, experiencing colonialism and the onslaught of white supremacy. Man, for the last 400 years, there's been an anti-Blackness movement. They criminalized Blackness in African culture. They criminalized it. And so, we're still going through the process of dismantling all of that trauma, psychically, spiritually, in our people. So, there have been many of us who saw the beauty and brilliance and genius of Black people. We see it. It's there. It's just you're fighting a system that is in every area of human endeavor, called white supremacy. That is so anti-Black that, Black folk are anti-Black in many ways and don't even know it. The thing that I've had to deal with a great deal is brothers and sisters from different countries and regions, saying that this is what I am. That's why I said, hey, look, when the cops come at you in the United States, they don't care if you're Jamaican or whatever, they see Blackness and they shoot.
Mm-hmm. Can I answer what Joseph said, please?
Yes.
I think one of our biggest problems is this, and this we were taught. Africans from Africa, when they come to the Americas, somehow that they believe that they're different from whether we're from Panama or from Colombia or from America. We have to stop that. We are the one that's still carrying the torch, saying how different we are. We don't have to do that anymore. We don't have to say, I am half Jamaican. We don't have to say, I am half Panamanian.
Right.
All of us are African.
Right.
And we are the one that's carrying that torch that was taught to us. First of all, we need to change our mindset. That's the first thing that we need to say. First of all, we need to heal from all the damage that has been done to us. I do believe no one can define me. No one is going to call me Afro-Panamanian, Negro, African-American. I am African, period. I was born in Panama due to slavery. When they came to Africa and they brought us here, all of us were in different regions. They placed us all over the place.
Let me jump in. I don't think it's a conscious effort.
Let me finish, sir. Let me finish. Sorry. And the point is this. And I know what he's probably, well, I don't know what he's saying. Say this. We have to stop talking about how different we are. You're coming from Africa, you're African. Now we know that whenever someone name you and give you a title, he already knows you don't know who you are. We have to define ourselves. That's the key here.
Okay.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Brother Fisher.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not a conscious effort to distinguish ourselves from African Americans when you relocate or you get into the new system. I think culturally you learn about yourself no matter where you're brought up, anywhere you're brought up. So I talk about most Africans growing up in Africa. we don't know what racism is. Racism is something that you read in a textbook, but you hardly experience. So you learn about history, and you learn about the slave trade. You learn about your ancestors selling their brothers and sisters to the white man, and the white man coming back later to exchange, to get more slaves and move on. So you learn that as history. You learn about the country evolving over years. Then you interact with white people. The white people you interact with mainly are white Peace Corps, missionaries, doctors, teachers. So you get a different perception or perspective of who the white individual is. You grow up in a Commonwealth environment, a mixture of white, black. You have no clue what all this racism stuff is about. And then you relocate to a different culture. You move to the United States of America. Your assumption is you're all similar, mainly because of the color of your skin. And then you evolve. You go through different experiences. Like somebody mentioned, the cops stop you. The first impression when the cop stops you is racism is far from it. You don't even think about it because it doesn't exist. You haven't experienced anything. You don't know anything about it. So it's just an individual of the law, right? And then what happens from there? Stories pick up from there. It goes to negative stuff. I remember one of the first things I knew, first stories I had when I moved here was, I think it was, his name was Diallo, Amadou Diallo.
Amadou Diallo.
Yes, trying to get his wallet out of his pocket, and he was shot so many times. So then the cultural shock begins. And then you start to learn about your new environs, and then who you are now. So your identity management begins. That you start to change individually who you are. So there's a whole lot of becoming a new individual as you assimilate into the United States. The pain of the African American is totally different from that of the African. And it takes a while for one to understand each other. Otherwise, in the beginning, the whole stereotypical thing begins. And when we go through those stereotypes, then it seems like there's a wedge between us.
Yes, we'll come to that. We'll come to the specific stereotypes. But Melissa wants to go ahead, Melissa.
Just really quickly, I love that we're having this conversation, and Dr. Melida, you're like nailing it on the head. I just wanted to contribute to something that I've been experiencing within the Caribbean, because as we want to challenge the notion of self-identity, things like Ancestry.com is really enabling all kinds of audacity in spaces and privilege and access. And so when I think about the ability to self-identify, and that is something that I want to be able to empower us to do, self-identify that nobody else labels us. As a Black Puerto Rican, I want to actually challenge us to find better and evolving language for ourselves. So that way, when we mean Black, we mean Black. If I were to say Afro-Puerto Ricans, there are a lot of Afro-Puerto Ricans going to do their Ancestry.com and say like, oh yeah, no, this is where I'm African. But there is a distinction between xenotype and phenotype. There's a distinction between race and ethnicity. And we're still even trying to grapple the seeds of that. So while I think that it's important to really identify and center Blackness and Africanness, when I say Black, I mean Black as a race, and really start thinking about ethnicity as another layer and start to complicate that conversation a little bit more, because Black in different parts of the world means something different.
Can I add
I
to
agree.
that?
I agree.
Hey.
I agree too. I do too.
Romain, go ahead.
Okay, I want to add to that because one of the things that I think for the last 5 years, and I cringe, especially when people start saying it and we don't correct them. They use the phrase, and this is our identity, by the way, and it goes back to what I said about the isms and the identification of who we really are. So when we talk about issues, especially government issues, they want to loop us in one category that can define many ethnicities. So we need to watch out for the phrase and start correcting people, a person of color. We need to stop that. We need to stop allowing people to, if you're going to talk
Yes.
about Black issues, talk about Black issues. If you're going to talk about white issues, talk about white issues. I will prefer you to say Black or brown issues, but don't sit there and say a person of color. We're not a damn crayon here.
Exactly.
Now,
It doesn't exist.
do you think that people within the diaspora refer to each other as a person of color? Or I think it's more so of other races referring to Black people as people of color than Africans or people of the African origin referring to each other. I don't think that has been an issue. We call we use it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Black people use that word. People of color.
People of color.
Black, African American, Negro.
Well, I have moved away from using BIPOC and mean Alana. Like I mean Alana, and I mean that in that umbrella term. But otherwise, I agree with Roman. It's like if we're talking about Black, we got to say Black. We have to censor it, or else people of color means white. White people of color will take up space.
So quickly, do you all
and we need to continue to push back against that?
So quickly, do you all agree with or side with what Dr. Melida said, that we are not part of this, half of that? We just people of African descent or Africans, because there's a lot of pushback to that identity too for a lot of Black people in our community. So would you, first of all, let me know if you all agree to what Dr. Melida is saying when it comes to that. Do you think we should see ourselves as Black people? I mean, Africans.
I would like to jump in here. I want to challenge a couple of things that were said, not because I don't agree, but because I think the conversation is much more complex than saying, hey, let's not look at our differences. I think what, in my opinion, and what's been happening in a lot of the Black diasporas that I've been working in is that we say African, and that's a whole 54 countries. Mm-hmm. And Africa's already lumped in. Everybody's already like, oh, okay, this whole place is a monolith. So we're actively, even in this conversation, we're doing that. So I think for me and for the people that I have spoken with, it's often been that we have been lumped together, not necessarily that we've been understanding our own perspective identities or celebrating our own perspective identities, then to come together and say, okay, look, now we know our histories, depending on, how you got your history, right? Whether it's from a white lens or whether it's from the oral history that's been taught down from the elders, that's another topic. But once we all know that and everybody is reframing that, and I think I can't remember who spoke on that, but restructuring the Black identity and Black identities is constantly happening, even in places that are homogeneous, right? So for example, in Ethiopia, nobody's saying I'm Black. We all are Black. So it's not a matter of we're trying to be different. It's a matter of it's redundant. And so we need to understand the different types of histories and how imperialism, colonialism, all of that, how it played out and manifested in different regions and different areas before we get to discuss and say, hey, we're all one big Black happy family. Because, I don't want to use a European comparison, but just for the lack of nothing else that I have to compare it with, like, we're not confusing Italians and Greek people. We're not having these confusions. And I know it's a border. I know it's all just borders. So I understand that too. But I think we have to take certain steps in this direction first before we can get to the goal of what we want as a Black diaspora.
Okay, great.
Until we do that, I don't know if it's going to really happen.
Well, you're right. I know Joseph agrees to that as well. But as a people in the 21st century, in 2021 going forward, how should we be identifying ourselves? Which is always taking me back to Dr. Melida's point. I mean, based off what Rebecca said eloquently, there's a lot of history that has gone down. But now that we're here in the diaspora, how should we identify ourselves? It's going to be very difficult if we have to consider how history has played on our identity, but to just look forward to say, look, regardless of what has happened, regardless of the different shades of the stories, we know in this day, in this age, that we are people of the African origin. And so let's identify ourselves as one thing. Either we are Africans or we're just Black people. And I think that it would help for us to, because once we can identify as one group of people, it helps us in trying to work together. Seeing us from different shades and identifying based upon our history and all that, it makes it difficult for us in moving forward. But it's just my opinion.
I would like to speak on that as well. I thought Rebecca's point was very valid. I just feel like, personally, from my own opinion, I want to know how that can actually be brought on in this 21st century. Because, I mean, for me, like, I've done my ancestry before, and I'm 87% African. However, I have African, roots from like Ghana and Kenya and Nigeria and Ethiopia. So it's so many different areas. So like for someone like me who has a very diverse background, it's almost like, well, which one do I celebrate? Which one do I learn more about? How do I relate to others around me? Because if you think about it, there's over about 300, 400 years of history that I would have to learn off rip. And that's not even including the slave traders who might have, raped my people or, caused my line to happen like this. So I feel like that's a great point. However, I don't know how that could actually be enacted in the present day because of how, I wouldn't say mixed, but how 54 countries in Africa can, 54 countries in Africa can come into like one body. So, I mean, like I may have like 20 different, origins of descent from Africa, but which one do I celebrate? What if I'm 25% from Ethiopia, 24% from Kenya? I just feel like at some point, that's when it starts the isms again, where somebody's like, where I'm this, or I'm that, or they feel prideful about they come from here, they may have blood from here. I mean, I see that a lot in, my age group where they're like, well, they got girls on Twitter that still put mixed girl or Blasian or Blexican. So, I mean, I feel like it's my viewpoint.
Can I answer her?
Yes. Dr. Melita, before you come in, so let me just a little thing, and then you can respond to that too. To Rebecca's point, you can't confuse. I mean, the Greeks, Germans, French, but there's a bigger identity which is common. Europeans, right? They have the Schengen, so you don't see, even though there are different countries, you don't see the difference. It's just one people, Caucasians, white people, Europeans. So we also have to move towards a direction where there's too many shades of us. Caribbean, African, even the Africa, there's plenty spots.
I was just going to add, even if you're 100% from Ghana, there are the whole differences.
The tribal differences, right?
Yeah, it's all, and you can bring it down to then, and there's the conflict between tribes. One tribe looking down on the other. Exactly. It's a whole different kind of melting pot. True, and that is the point I was trying to make. But Dr. Melita, go ahead.
This is what I want to say to clear up a lot of things. I want to say this. First of all, the continent was not divided the way it is today. There was no Nigeria. There was no Kenya. There was no South Africa. That happened when colonializers came into Africa and divided the continent. Now, when have we ever heard a Chinese saying, I'm a descendant of China? When an Italian ever said, I'm a descendant of Italy? They don't say that. They just say that they are Italian, they are Chinese, they are Europeans. We are the ones that are saying what we're saying because we've been taught that. Now, going back to the continent was one. And you are divided today because of the colonializers. And we need to, for example, I was born in Panama, right? But there's a diversity in Panama. By the way I look and the Spaniards, there's a difference there. But I am not going to continue to say that I am Afro-Panamanian or anything like that. Because once you accept those things, Now they still know that you are still oppressed, and you are still, no matter where American goes, let me put it to you that way. They go to Africa, they come to my country, you know what they're gonna say? I'm American. They would never say I'm half American. Even though they're from Italy, they still say they are American.
Right.
So we have to start thinking about what direction do we want to go to? Right. We have to define who we are and not allow others to define us.
Yes, I think that if I could add to that, I think there's a certain pride in where your ancestors are from. And I don't recall, but I do remember when I went to grad school in the Midwest. And I know that they had Irish American Day. They would have green. They would all dress up in green or stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And they had Italian Americans who also celebrate their heritage, talking about their ancestors came from different places. So there's really nothing wrong with celebrating your heritage along that side. You can still celebrate that and yet under one body come together.
Exactly.
So I think there's really nothing wrong with saying I am African American or I am the Nigerian American, whatever it is. That's still okay.
Yes.
And there are different umbrella we could come together. But there is, I do know that, I don't know if it's not the same, but I do remember at least the Irish American one, I do remember, and they used to wear green stuff. Green hat,
they're celebrating
Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day, exactly.
They're celebrating their ethnicity. Right. Yes.
Yeah. And St. Patrick, by the way, ran he was famous for running the Druids, which were of African descent, out of Ireland, and they were in Ireland and highly developed spiritual people descended from the ancient Egyptians. That's what St. Patrick is famous for.
It all comes from
I wanted to say one thing about.
Oh, go ahead.
I want to say this about us seeing ourselves as one people, even though we have different ethnicities and varying cultures. Militarily, white folk think militarily about how to oppress us. They apply military thinking to us to conquer and divide us. And one of the ways they do that is by looking at, of course, skin color, because it's an easy thing to stigmatize.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you look anywhere, the people who are being oppressed the most are the dark people.
Yeah.
And the only way that we can fight back with any real sense of power is through our solidarity and unity. That is why they murdered Fred Hampton, because he was about to unite a whole bunch of people, white, black, Latinx, whatever, he was getting ready to do it. Is one of the biggest problems they were watching that Martin Luther King was doing it. But then he was getting ready to come at them from a whole nother economic angle. But the point I'm trying to make is that we must understand military strategy, because we're all dealing with the tools of the oppressor, whether it is through lack of resources, miseducation, occupying our communities, murdering our leaders, spiritual warfare. It is military strategy. We have never deconstructed how they destroyed the Black movement. We never taught our kids, sat down and taught our children what they did to destroy SNCC, Nation of Islam, which is the only one that's come back. You know, the Black Panthers. We don't look at the strategy used, which was divide and conquer, mold traders, all that kind of stuff. That's stuff that we don't want to think about and deal with, because we're dealing with a man who has a long history of using all those strategies on the people he wants to subjugate. And then if you want to understand more about his constructs of how he controls us, you need to get this book right here.
Come on, plug.
Or Isabel Wilkerson. This will break down to you how the United States, Germany, and even South Africa constructed caste systems to control the people they want to control by creating social norms and then policies and then whole ideologies to. That's what we need to be teaching our children, what we need to be teaching ourselves.
Okay. All right. So
now can I jump in for one second?
Only one.
Yes, because you have
only one.
One.
Okay.
All you get is one set.
Okay. To my brother's point, Joseph here, we got to realize that we wasn't just here. Now we got to look at the Reconstruction era. You know, we got to look at a lot of people don't know where Mr. Gorley, who was an entrepreneur, and he was the creator of the Black Wall Street. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have Black Wall Street, the envision of him. So if we allow people to define us and define our history, and every single time we don't correct them, and we have government officials that goes back to after Reconstruction era that try to correct the wrongs, but we allow what we call media now to actually say, well, this is why. And we don't define the why. Okay, why did this happen? Why did that happen? Why did we don't ask the questions. Why do you all of a sudden for decades, it was decades, but now 5 or 6 years ago, I'm a person of color now. I'm representing, but we don't correct that. Okay. So to my brother's point is we look at government. We have banks already. We have this already. So when people say we don't have, it's kind of like we don't go back to the playbook of our history and say, okay, why did we didn't expound on that? Why didn't we develop the playbook like we used to have? Okay. Let's start from that point and then expand.
The 1 second is way past. No, I was just Melissa.
But solid points. Solid points drop.
Of course, just messing with my brother. Go ahead. You wanted to make a point, Melissa. So I wanted to just chip in. I just want you to chip in. Yeah.
I'll take my 1 second is that I love the fact that Roman, that you mentioned media and along the conversations that Dr. Melida and Joseph and Faith were having about a unifying voice. I think that while we have these principles and ideologies in mind, I always like to think about the action. And as an organizer, as an activist, and as a person that's also really thinking about how we go about it, it's the action steps for me. And so when we think about how social justice and movements look different now than it did in the 60s and 70s, and now we have these things called platforms, right? We're looking at narratives and the stories that we put out and how we utilize narrative through the media, through TV and film, through the arts, through storytelling. The power of storytelling is so important. And until we can actually use the empowerment of self-identification, then at that point when we have platform, then at that point when we have access to larger narratives, we can really set an impact on how we move. The way that social media has activated us and even infected us in misinformation, disinformation, and empowerment, we're looking at a really beautiful movement right now with young people, with technology, where we can utilize this voice. And if we can control the narrative first, then we can actually make an impact on how we're unifying and being in solidarity. But you know what? Right now, TV and film want to put me in Black roles. And I feel a particular way about going in for Black roles because they see me as a Black woman, but a safe enough Black woman that is not as dark and that my hair looks a particular way. And I'm not going in there to try to decenter myself in that narrative. I'm going in there to say actively, that is not how I identify, and that is not how I want that narrative to be portrayed. So it is important to be in solidarity, and my solidarity is to decenter myself in those privileges and center other people.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I got to jump off because I have to go to rehearsal. I'm in rehearsal for a play called The Meeting, which is a fictional meeting between Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. It's fascinating, the conversation they had, because they're touching on a lot of stuff we're talking about. But
you see One Night in Miami? That's great.
Say it again.
I said, did you see One Night in Miami too? Because I love having these the flying the wall meeting rooms. This is great.
Absolutely.
Have a great rehearsal.
You talked about storytelling, and one of the ways that we, change the narrative and tell our story is, of course, through theater, film, art, what have you. So the thing that I didn't share, that I'm going to share about me, is that my latest work is called Reparations. It's a play that connects the continent of Africa to our experiencing to the United States, to the present, in terms of the plunder that happened on the African continent as well as in the United States. But it's a musical. I'm not calling it a musical. I'm just calling it Reparations. And the reason why I wrote it is because so many of our people don't understand what was robbed from us, what was taken from, the level of plunder. And so there's apathy toward fighting for reparations. There's apathy toward trying to connect with your brother and sister, even though you may have a disagreement. There's apathy toward reaching across, culturally and connecting, because you don't understand what happened to us.
Exactly.
And so that's one of the reasons why the piece was written, so that we can have these collective communal experiences to restore collective historical conscious memory, so that we can begin to act more in accord in terms of moving together and thinking about blah, blah, blah. Anyways, that's my spiel, and I got to run.
Thank you, Joseph.
Love you all. Wonderful conversation.
Have a great meeting.
Thank you.
Wow. How I wish he stayed on with all that fire he has, right? A great point. It's a minute past 7 p.m. here in the studios of the Progressive Minds. We're located in Chicago. It's been interesting so far. Great panelists having awesome intellectual conversations about the diaspora and our society. We will take a short break. When we come back, I would like us to talk about the specific stereotypes, brothers and sisters, like all the stereotypes that we've had against each other. I want us to go into some of the specifics when we come back after this break. If you're watching us on Facebook, we urge you to share it and on YouTube as well. This is the Progressive Minds. I am your host, Alinco. After this short break, we shall continue the conversation and open the phone lines when we come back. Stay tuned.
Check out this beautifully made artistry of coffee tables made from a combination of recycled tires, jute ropes, wood, and fabric to suit your style. Yes, we make to order. These coffee tables can help you make a statement in your bedrooms, offices, and living rooms. But remember, we only ship within the USA and Canada after shipping cost is paid. Call Jasper Designs on 1-306-203-2650 or email us at doduyayra@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram at Jasper Love or follow Pearl Yara Agboka on Facebook. Don't be left out. Please place your orders now.
We are back on the Progressive Mind Show. Please remember to share the feed if you're watching on Facebook and on YouTube so we can get the word out. Also, visit our website. If you feel encouraged to support what we're doing, it's the progressivemindshow.com. It's being carried live by MyStar Radio all the way in Washington, D.C. It is a Pan-African radio station for the discerning listener. It's also on Trend Africa TV. This evening, we are talking about the Diaspora Convo Part 2, and it's been interesting so far. Ladies and gentlemen, specifically, let's try and deal with some of the stereotypes that we have had against each other. Melissa, I know within the Afro-Latina community, there are things that we will whisper, among each other about Africans, or African Americans and vice versa. We do all of that. I would start with, I don't know about East Africans. I don't know about East Africans, but as a West African, I know some of the things that I can attest to a lot of the stereotypes that we have when it comes to the African American community and also even the Afro-Latina community. And so, what are some of the things that we have known about each other that we think of this of ourselves that we have to do away with. Dr. Melinda, I know you have to leave, but I would like you to respond to that if you don't mind.
Well, first of all, the word Afro, Latina, I don't accept.
Okay.
Because we have been given so many names, and we have given names like mulata, and it might sound pretty and nice, but the history behind it is when a Black woman is mixed with a white with another race, which is white. The word mula is a mule, and during slavery, that's what they would call us, a mule carrying the cane. So I don't accept that. I have never, when I discovered what it really means, I totally, disregard it.
Right.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things that we don't even know the history of it. Words can be so devastating because of the fact that we don't know our own history. So, like I said before, and I love what Melissa and all of you are saying, and one of the things that Rebecca said is true. They don't have any concern about Black issues because everyone is Black. You know, we're in Latin America, because I'm also have family in the Caribbean. It's different because we're dealing with other races and dealing with insults. We're dealing with all sorts of things. There's pain. And one of the things that I want to say, I love what Melissa said. Now what? What about the action? What action are we taking? We can sit here and talk all day about Black and white, but what are the actions? Let me tell you the actions that I have started. And that is, I created the 6th Region Global Chamber of Commerce. And that 6th Region Global Chamber of Commerce is about us doing business with each other. Because if we don't have funds, if we don't have the business, if we're not trading with each other, we are lost. I noticed when Senna introduced me, he said, I'm from South America. Now that is something that is often said by Americans, when in fact, I'm from Central America. But let me tell you why most Africans say that Latin America is South America. It is because that's what you've been taught. They don't want you to do business beyond Brazil. They want you to do business in Brazil because they have colonialized you and they are in Brazil. It's the same thing of Europe. You do more business in Europe than you do in the rest of the world. And what we are doing in the 6th region, we are now opening up the doors for you to do business in Latin America, in the Caribbean, and also in other words, in the Americas. So when you want to refer Latin America and America together, you will say the Americas. That starts all the way from Brazil, all the way to the America.
Es el sueño de Bolívar. Es el sueño de Bolívar.
Exactamente. Exactamente.
So,
okay, I see you.
Because this is very important for your audience to understand. And this is why I keep pushing, everything that we have learned thus far in history most of it is a lie. We have to go back now. Now, what I am doing, not only about business, I am in touch with kings and queens in Africa, because it's time for kings and queens in Africa to come to the Americas and atone, reunify with their children that was taken from Africa. And guess what? It's being done as we're speaking. So what I am saying is there's a time for healing. We cannot keep going through these things that you are Latina de Bolivia, Latina de America. No, we have all been separated. We have all been brought here. We just need to bring that back and start working with our brothers and sisters. And this is why I ask the kings and queens, come back to America. Come and atone for your children that you never came for. We are considered the lost children. And guess what? It's being done. Once we begin to heal, that's when we can start doing business. That's when we can start trading with each other. And I just want that message to go out to my African brothers and sisters in Africa. You have been colonialized and we have been enslaved. Enough is enough. Let us all come together. That's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line. Dr. Manida, you mentioned that you do business in Central America and Latin America with the Sixth Region Global Chamber of Commerce. 2 follow-up questions quickly. I didn't hear Africa. Do you do business in Africa as well?
As I said before, the 6th Region Global Chamber of Commerce, just the 6th region is us.
Okay, so there are a lot of people.
Yes, we do business with Africa. Yes,
okay.
That's the purpose. Yes.
Okay, great. There are a lot of people who are listening what is 6th region? And that's I wanted to get a clarification. What is 6th region?
Sure. The African Union created the 6th region. Africa has 5 regions: North, South, East, West, Central. They created the 6th region. The 6 regions are Africans that have left Africa for a better opportunity in the world. But they really never talk about us, those that was enslaved in the Americas. But what we're doing now is that the 6th region, it is bringing together those that have left Africa and us here in the Americas. In order for us now to unite, to come together. That is the 6th region.
That is powerful. So it basically encompasses every Black person that lives outside the continent or the continent of Africa. Okay, that's very powerful.
That's right.
Fisho, you've been a Ghanaian, and we know, and I would like Melissa to respond to this too. Thank you, Dr. Melissa, for your submission. Again, I want us, even though we want to move forward, there are certain negative stereotypes that we've had against each other, or we've had about each other, that I want us to be able to go into. What are some of the things that you know within the African community that we think of, or that within African communities that you know exist about the African American community? In other words, what are some of the negative stereotypes that has always been in existence? The things that we talk about the African American community. Fisho, if you want to, if you know some specific, let me, if you can share.
I mean, I don't think I want to go in particular into the negative. It just brings out a lot of pain, and there's no, we don't gain anything from that pain.
Okay.
But in 2001, my thesis was on A Tale of Two Cultures, the distancing of the African and the African American. So I went through it in detail from a theoretical point of view.
Okay.
Did a little bit of research that brought out the practical aspect of it. And through that, you could get the pain from both sides. Mm-hmm. And as I think I'd mentioned earlier, there's certain things that there's a learning experience that you get from both sides when you speak to them.
Right.
Pain of the African, as I mentioned, it's a little different from that of the African American, and vice versa.
Okay.
We know the pain of the slave trade that brought, that created a part of history that you want to forget. And,
okay.
And I had a long dialogue initially when I was doing my research.
Mm-hmm.
There's the African American attack that the white man bought the slaves, the white man bought slaves. And I said, well, yeah, from that perspective, on our side, we also learned that it was our people who actually started that process. The white people came in to trade with alcohol and stuff. And then we offered, slaves along those lines. So it's a certain pain. We have, you have, some of us will have relatives that were actually, slave traders. And it's a part of your history that you're definitely not proud of. And so that's, we tend to catch up on the things that we've messed up out there. But one other thing that I like, or what is coming out, a theme that is coming or recurring from today's conversation is the action. Mm-hmm. Okay. There's a lot of hurt, there's a lot of pain. And anytime you have a community or a discussion like this, it would all come up.
Right.
What's the action? What are we doing?
Right.
I know that Dr. Barrow mentioned the sixth region, which is excellent. Uh-huh. And I know from a Ghana perspective, in 2019 represented 400 years exactly when the first slave ships got to Virginia. Uh-huh. So The year of return in Ghana 2019 was huge. Diaspora encouraging African diasporans to come to Ghana in particular, to settle, to invest in the continent. They were made citizens, and some have actually relocated. You find videos of people talking. So that's the beginning of a process.
Right.
So they're actually back home. You're actually a citizen of Ghana. So you have that American blend, and then you have your roots itself, or you're part of it. So the Ministry of Tourism, and it's helped them as individuals invest into a country that their great grandparents or so were from. So the stories that they've heard from ancestors, they can actually verify.
Right.
I've been to, I'm sure you have to, the Cape Coast Castle, the Mina Castles.
Yeah.
I spend just an hour, but you come back. There's nobody who walks in and comes back the same.
The same, right?
Go through all those experiences, and so you see these things, and then you know that these are things that will tell a story on their own. And these are some of the things when we started, we were talking about Black History Month. Are they doing enough? These are some of the things that I wish that stories of these are told a lot more in the month of February than just stick to the stories our kids tell you all the time. Oh, Martin Luther King. Yes, those are great.
But Angelo, how can I just say this, Angelo, how can you not talk about the issues? And you said, we don't want to deal with the negative. The negative is...
No, I said right now.
Just let me say this.
Yeah.
We have to talk about these things, and we can talk about it in a positive way for us not to do the things that we're doing to each other. There has to be a healing. The healing starts from discussing what the problem is and then proceed to fix the problem in order for us now to unite.
Right.
We cannot deny what's happening.
Yeah. Let me make this announcement.
Can I jump in for 1 second?
I'll let you jump in, but let me just make that announcement real quick. Some people want to call in. So the number to ring if you want to contribute is 815-277-5047. 815-277-5047. If you want to comment or ask a question, you can ring now and do that.
Put it in the chat so that people can see the number, because I don't think that they're catching the number. Can you put the number in the chat?
Okay. All right. I'll do that right now. Okay. Go ahead. It's 815
banner. Okay.
277-5047. And yes, if you see the flyer on social media, it's on there as well. But Romain, please go ahead and make your point quickly.
I think Rebecca wanted to jump in first, so I'll give her, and then you can come back to me.
Okay. Before Rebecca comes in, just to add to what Dr. Melida said, you see, most of us here are on this platform. Of course, we are here for a reason. And I'll say that all of us on this platform of course, we're open-minded and have a lot of information when it comes to what we're already talking about. And so we already get it. But there are tons of us in our communities and out there who still hold on to these stereotypes. And sometimes the purpose of us openly saying it, will trigger or will create that awareness that, hey, if you are calling or thinking of these people or, thinking of the other person as this, you are probably thinking the wrong way, because here is the reason why they probably do things the way they do. So through these conversations, we might bring awareness to some of the things that a lot of people don't already know. And so that's just to add to what Dr. Melida said. We come here and we have open conversations, because guess what? We will go home and talk about it privately. And so there's
exactly.
So why don't we bring it up and have a
talk about it? Because I've experienced it. I have experienced it when I first came to this country in 1976.
Yeah.
Where, because I'm Panamanian, Africans would talk to me and they would say things about African American, and I told them they're the one that built this country in order for us to be here. Which is important. So we cannot keep denying the things that we do and then trying to, override it. We want to talk about it. That's how we begin the healing. Right. And I'm sorry, I have to go. I love all of you.
doctora.
We have a question. We have a question on the
All
line.
right, have a good one.
All right.
Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and why you're calling.
Yes, my name is Humu.
Yes.
Isifu.
Can you turn down the device you're listening or watching us on?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes. So my name is Humu Isifu, and I just wanted to comment that I have two. How can I say it? I experienced both life. I came here. I was in Ghana. I grew up in Ghana, born and raised in Ghana. I came here as an immigrant with my mother. When I came here, I was taught to erase my history, not from my parents, but from the school system. And while we're talking about Black history, I feel like Black history should be every day throughout the year. And every day as parents, we need to educate our children about our history. Because I now work for Chicago Public School. I work up north. I work at a very privileged, I would say, school. Now before I worked there, I used to work on the south side, the east side. So I've been in the school system for over 10 years now with Chicago Public School. Me working up north, the percentages of African-American students up there is about 5%. Out of 100. I wanted to leave that school. When Black History Month come and we do an assembly, they do not want to start off with slavery. They want the kids to immediately just forget about slavery. But as when I was on the committee, I told them, I said, I cannot do it. If we can't go back, we'll let these students know who they are. If we're going to erase slavery, let's get rid of the I can't think of what happened. I'm talking too much, but let's get rid of the white history.
Go ahead.
You get what I'm saying?
No, go ahead.
The white history. Let's forget about what Adolf Hitler did. Let's forget about all of that, because that's not fair for you all to immediately not. So just go way back, just to take away or deprive the African-American students because it makes the whites uncomfortable. You don't think it made our people uncomfortable? That you don't think it makes the students uncomfortable? That they ancestors, great generation after generation went through this, and we still going through this. Like Dr. Melissa said, if I'm not mistaken her name,
yes.
Like she said, we need to know the problem, and we need to acknowledge that this is a problem, and this is still 300 plus years of oppression we're still going through. You get what I'm saying? When I came here, CPS, the kids are mean. Kids only listen to or model what they see. Kids are like wet cement. Anything that falls on them makes an impression. And I'm just here to say, as a parent, and all the parents are listening, we have to educate our children on our history if we're going to go anywhere as people. Mm-hmm. We're going to go anywhere as people.
Wow.
African American is a big stereotype between African and people from Africa and people who got the African descendants, African American. I have friends who told me why they don't like Africans, because Africans feels like they different. And I have African fans who told me the same thing, vice versa. And I'm like, we are all as one people, no matter what. One drop of Black blood in you automatically make you an African American.
Right.
Okay. So why is it that we all can't come? What the tactic that they use, the European use, is divide and conquer. They divide us and then conquer all of us.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And people need to stay woke. And that's what I'm saying. It's not going to get better until we educate our future generation, which is our children.
Right.
Because we are adults. We know what's going on. But we have to educate. We have to fight for our children. Just like our ancestors fought for us. Just like your ancestors. We have to not, my generation, I'm 26 years old. I have to fight for my child. I have to educate my child so she can educate her kids. Because if I don't, what they planning to wipe out our race is definitely going to happen. And I'm very compassionate about my history.
Yeah.
I'm African and I'm proud. I'm Black and I'm proud. Nobody can. I make my voice heard. I'm a Black woman and I make my voice heard.
Yeah.
You hear me?
Yeah.
And I just want parents to understand the number one thing. We are our first educator of our child. This school system, I work in it. I work in the school system. They are not educating your kids about their history. And if you want your kids to know who they really are and where they came from and the struggle they came from to break this cycle of poverty, to break the cycle, you got to start with your kids right now as I'm talking.
Right.
So that's all I just wanted to say. We are all one, no matter if you from Brazil, you got Afro-Latina, X. If you from Jamaica, if you from East Africa, West Africa, we are all one and we all need to stay together and we all need to help each other. Right. You know what I'm saying? And get rid of these stereotypes that we don't want to help each other. Absolutely. Black people don't want to help each other. Black people are dirty. We are lazy. Come on now. This don't need to be. When Black people built this country, Black people built America. You were so lazy why we couldn't go. And you see what I'm saying? Yeah. The things that happened in the Capitol building, I guarantee you, if this was an African American people that was going in the Capitol building like this, we would have all been shot and dead.
Humu,
do you hear me?
No, we hear you. We hear you. Thank you so much. You've made a lot of great points, and we appreciate your contribution this evening. It's very,
no problem.
Yes, thank you so much.
And we appreciate you being in CTU. We're standing in solidarity with the teachers in Chicago at CTU and everything that you're being subjected to through the teachers union and through the city of Chicago. Thank you for just being a teacher and sticking through and being a parent in this pandemic and with the demographics and the lack of support and accessibility to healthcare in the way it is. You are a fucking champion and you're the true hero tonight.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's why I don't want to leave my kids, because in that school, I'm all they have. You see what I'm saying? It's only 5%. And they look, and these are kids who, of course, we know with the system, they can only let so many people in the neighborhood. So Coburna Greens, you remember Coburna Greens? These are students from that. So they are already of low income, status students. They come to me about everything, we can own.
We're in solidarity with you. Thank you for everything you do.
No, thank you. Thank you all. And I love the show. Keep coming because we got to educate. We got to educate this. We got to educate our community.
Thank
we
you.
have to, or we're going to lose them. We have to. It takes a village. It'll go back to Africa. It takes a village. Right. So we got to help each other. Okay. Right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Our pleasure. And that was from Humu. If you want to call and make a contribution, it's 815-277-5047. Great point.
I think what she described is more of a system, right? Systemic racism. I'll put it that way, which is huge. Like it's a diluted system that's being taught to our kids about Black history. Right. And I'm glad she added on there that she's doing her own due diligence as an individual, as a parent, to tell her children the truth. But she can't leave it alone. She can't leave them to the system to really tell them who they are. Right. And that's one thing that those of us who know should not hesitate to do that. To do.
Okay. So part of great. Another very important point that she made is, and again, I'm not scared in saying these things open because we have to. At the end of the day, we have to. The truth is that she made a point that some Africans refer to African Americans as some of the words that she used, lazy, and some of this negative, they don't want to work, their promiscuity and all of that. But we as Africans also know that in our community, we have traits of this. We have these characteristics. If you go to Ghana, if you go to Africa, everything that we describe of the African American community, we have that times 10.